Thanks very much for being flexible enough to leave the sanctuary and go and get your cup of coffee or tea and come back in so that we can commence the meeting of the congregation and hopefully in a timely manner gather for lunch afterwards. Already I've asked if you haven't got your consensus cards, could you please make sure that you get them? They're up the back as you come in the door. The consensus cards, as I will remind you, there are 3 of them. If you've got a question, a yellow card is the thing you hold up. If you agree with the proposal or the sentiments that are being shared, the orange card is there. If you're cool to a situation or you don't necessarily agree with the sentiments or the proposal that's being considered, a blue card is there for your use. Those cards and consensus are the way that we make decisions within the Uniting Church and certainly within the congregation of Morialta. This is our last congregation meeting for the year. It is good to see you here, and I hope that you are able to participate fully in the business of the meeting. I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for coming. Importantly, I'd also like to acknowledge the Kaurna people. Can I say Ninamani, which is Kaurna for hello and welcome, or basically that's about it. But we acknowledge the elders of the Kaurna nation and our First Peoples everywhere in Australia. The care that they show and the stewardship that they provide for their land and everything on it is an example to us all as we strive to decrease the impact of climate change and the degradation of our environment. I'd just like to crave your indulgence, please. Most of you know that I have been somewhat absent over recent months. It is quite an interesting experience to be unwell. Many of you know that firsthand, and we have got a number of our congregation who are presently coping with the aftermath of operations, etc. My convalescence has taken much longer than I expected. It's caused me much frustration. Apart from the absolutely excellent support that I have had from Anne, my wife, I have also been very grateful for the ongoing concern and care that has come from this community. But I want to actually acknowledge the congregation leaders before I sit down. We are very fortunate at Morialta to have a range of people with skills that they provide for the benefit of our mission and service. Our church council is small, but it's the work that it does is amazing. I'm going to mention their names. There's Rhonda Amber, Chris Ailes, Helena Begg, Margaret Cargill, Carol Lyons and John Seacombe, each of whom have met monthly at least and undertaken other tasks during the year and have made sure that the business of our church and our congregation is done to the best of abilities. I've been absent for most of that, and in fact actually at our last meeting scheduled on Tuesday I wasn't able to attend because I was unwell, which is very frustrating. But anyway, could I really acknowledge and ask you to show your appreciation for those people who have set themselves aside. Because I have not been fully present for a lot of what's happened, I'm going to propose this next procedural motion. Our Deputy Chairperson of Council, Margaret Cargill, I propose that she run the meeting from now. Can I ask your warmth or otherwise for this, please? Yes, right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. See you over lunch.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for your very kind words. I speak, I think, on behalf of the rest of the council as well. And Craig, thank you very much for your job taking minutes and providing the minutes for the previous meeting. The first thing for us to talk about today is present and apologies. If you know of apologies from anyone who's not able to be here and would like apologies registered, please make sure that Craig knows that before the end of today. I'd now like to ask your agreement to the agenda as circulated. There are some paper copies at the back if anyone's unaware. How do you feel about the agenda? Excellent. Thank you very much. Would you guys like some cards?
I've got cards, but I haven't got the agenda.
Right. Can somebody bring a copy of the agenda? Well, it'll be on the screen, but the full agenda is on paper if you wish. It's coming. Thanks, Eunice. Okay. I guess I can take that as consensus. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, the minutes of the AGM held on the 21st of April. These have been made available to you electronically or a printed copy on request from the office. We trust that people who are interested to read them have read them, and I ask how you respond to a suggestion that we confirm those as a correct record of the meeting held in April. Thank you, that's consensus. Now, we need to turn our minds briefly to the Joint Nominating Committee, and Chris Ailes is going to present an interim report. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Margaret. As you are fully aware, it's now over 12 months since Bob left. In that time, the Joint Nominating Committee has met several times. We have not been lazy and done nothing, and I don't think we're the entire cause of the absence of a minister from our group. Just to remind you, the Joint Nominating Committee is made up of two presbytery representatives and others from this congregation who you have elected at some time ago. The two presbytery reps are Rebecca Perling and Paul Turley. The rest of the JNC, Bruce End, Helena Begg, Margaret Cargill, John Seacombe, Rhonda Amber and me. As I said, we've had several meetings, the last one just over a week ago. And why do we not yet have a minister? The Wimmera Presbytery, of which we're a part, has more churches than ministers. 1 point. Another one, most ministers have been in there with their current church for less than 5 years, which is the threshold for ministers becoming generally available for a call. So within the Wimmera Presbytery, that's been something of an obstacle for us to even consider a name of somebody. So looking wider, other presbyteries across the state are in a similar position. We discussed advertising Australia-wide, but it seems the whole of Australia is in a similar position. The last South Australian Adelaide church to do this got one applicant who proved to be a poor match for the congregation. So we've discussed a number of different possibilities that we could think of, and at the last meeting specifically asked the presbytery reps what support might presbytery be able to provide under our current circumstances. There is no such process, there is no such system in place to meet churches like ours' needs, and in fact, any church would have unique and individual requirements. So as a consequence, the Morialta members of the JNC agreed to explore and document how presbytery might be able to provide some support to us specifically. That will happen early next year, and you will be given the opportunity to participate in that process of bringing together our thoughts and how we might be best supported while we await the possibility of a call. Thanks, mate. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. The next item on the agenda is a finance report to the end of September, and Carol will present that for us. Welcome, and thank you very much for being here, Carol.
Colin will be putting the figures up on the screens, so I hope you can read them all clearly. This first report is with the accounts to September this year, and you'll see as we go through them that one of our concerns is that the giving of other members of the congregation. At the end of September, we're $3,700 under budget. We did set a fairly conservative budget last year, so we're not quite sure of the reason for this. We do know that those who take giving envelopes, the numbers have dropped there, but the actual bowl, money has increased. So, and we of course don't know the reasons for this, but just to remind everybody that of course we do, when we do envelopes and the UC Invest and so on, that is what keeps this church running. And every time I get up here, I do encourage those that are able to consider doing their monthly giving via UC Invest. Now, the monies that go through UC Invest, and it is millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, the interest they receive on that, a large portion of that comes back into the Uniting Church. They make grants and gifts to various churches and things like that. So all the money is being, if you say, recycled into the church. So that was one of our concerns. The hiring of facilities, that is well over budget. And as you know, we have a good relationship with the Dawudi Bora, the group that hire our church for Ramadan, Moran, and certainly many other times through the year. And we do have a great relationship with this group, and it's lovely to see it continuing. And they tell us that they see this as their spiritual home as well. Fundraising, you'll see that that's well under budget, but these figures were up until the end of September. And we will have at least $9,000 to add to that because of the very successful market we've just run. So that will end up being over budget. Interest received is over budget, and that's due to being able to invest some of the monies that were in our bank account, to put that into UC investment accounts And also the interest rates of UC Invest have increased over the last couple of years. The student accommodation, that usually runs right to budget because Anne is really good at working out how much income we're going to get. So that is, we never have to worry about the student accommodation, but we must remember that it's a large amount of money and it certainly contributes to keeping this church running. The community centre, that's just all of the groups that use it. There's the Tai Chi group, the Art and Circle group, what else? Anyhow, apart from the fundraising groups, the people that hire the church, that is our people within our church that are using the facilities. The manse rental, that's an unusual item. Thanks, Colin. If we go to, is an unusual item because we've not had a minister this year. The manse wasn't required for a minister, so it has been rented out for the past 6 months. And we'll continue to do so, I think, on a monthly basis. Somebody might tell me if that's right. On a 3-monthly basis, thanks, Chris. So that was an added bonus for us as well. Donations come from various reasons. We've had a couple of bequests this year from former members of the church. We've had people who've made donations when we've had funerals here, and just donations from people who want to give a donation. The netball club, that is usually, they make a donation, and I think it was just over, Bruce would remember this, just over $3,000 for this year. That's partly for their use of the premises, for the halls and the courts and so on, and also as a general donation as well. Sundry income is just when something comes in and I don't know what to do with it, it goes into sundry income. So looking at those figures there, our budget income was $152,000. Our actual income was $170,000. So our income to date is $17,800 over budget. Is there any questions on the income side of the report? I'd be happy to answer them. Yellow card there. Do we have a mic?
Thank you. I confess I do a semi-cringe when I watch the service online and the request for donations come up. How is that going? Are people sending money who watch the service online?
We have had some donations from the people and congregations that have watched the service online. Yes, we have had donations from those people. I can think of 2 that came from donations because of the live streaming. Did that answer the question, Ruth? Thank you.
I was wondering if the impending closure of the McGill campus, uni campus, do we envisage that's going to affect our student accommodation in the future?
Anne's shaking her head.
No, it's occurred to me and I meant to ask about it. Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks, Anne.
Is there a student accommodation? Yeah. Yep.
I haven't needed to advertise our student accommodation. Word of mouth keeps happening. I've got a waiting list already for next year, so it's not a problem. And the closing of that, I don't think will make any difference. A lot of them just go into the city anyway, or even drive to Flinders. They just like the place, so it's good.
Now, if we might look at the expenditure to date, to September, the administration, that is $2,600 under budget. Administration covers the salary for the office coordinator and the general running of the office. The stipend, obviously that's $31,000 under budget, and that's a direct result, of course, that we've not had a full-time minister for the 9 months to date of this year. And that will increase over the next, until the end of December, because we have a 0.5 supply minister in place. The Mission and Service Fund, that will even out at the end of the year because that is a direct debit to our account monthly, but it only runs from March to December. All the other expenses there, not including the properties, is for the group Worship and Faith Ed, pastoral care, audio-visual, and those are amounts. So that all other expenses is also well under. That may get expended by the end of the year because I think AV might be needing some more equipment. Now, the maintenance of the properties, that is all of those, particularly the maintenance itself is well under. And as I say every year when I present this, congratulations to Chris Ailes and the property team. They do an amazing job in minimising the expenditure here and have done so for many years. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. We must keep in mind that if we do have any large expenditure, and it's bound to come, that will have to be funded, and it would most likely be funded out of our investments. The rates and utilities, the cleaning, we have commercial cleaners now that have been cleaning both the properties here and the student accommodation, because we've found that obviously we are just unable to do it anymore. The insurance, that shows that it's over, but the insurance is paid at the beginning of the year for the entire year, and this will only show the 9/12 of that amount that was fully paid. I contacted the insurance property in the Synod office last week to see when the insurance schedule will be out for 2025, and they tell me that it will be around about early December. So I've allowed for a 15% increase in their premiums for next year. There was a 19% increase for the premiums for this year. So we expect that those increases to continue. The manse, of course, it's because it's been rented out for the last 9 months. The expenditure there is under, but we do have some current expenditure going on at the manse, don't we, Chris? The bathrooms, yeah. There's some work being done in the bathrooms. And of course the Chapel Street properties next door, they're a little bit over budget. There's been a few maintenance things, and we also now employ a gardener to do the gardens and the grounds next door once again because we are unable to do them ourselves anymore. So before I give that, is there any questions on the expenditure? Thank you. So our budgeted income to September was $185,000. Our actual expenditure was $140,000, showing us a $45,000 under budget. So if we look at the actual figures to September, our income was $170,000, our total expenses $140,000, so our surplus to September is $30,000. That may change. So if there's any other questions, I don't know whether I need to ask if this report's accepted or not. No? I do. Oh, good. I propose that this report be accepted. Thank you. Now, now, this is the one that always causes me a little bit of stress, the budget for next year. The budget for 2025. Sorry?
Balance sheet was on.
Oh, that's on the bottom of that report, isn't it? I'll see if I read from here. The balance sheet shows our financial position overall. That is all of the assets we've got. The cash at bank at the end of September was $24,000. UC Invest 207,000, and the UC Invest Sinking Fund is 56,000. So our total assets at the end of September were 288,400 odd. So now I put that proposal that this report be accepted. Thank you. Now, the budget for 2025. This was approved at the meeting of the Church Council on the 22nd of October to be able to be brought to the meeting of this congregation. I'll go through each slide, I think might be best, and then I'll ask if there's any questions relating to that particular slide. The giving envelopes, $18,000. The electronic giving, which is the e-give, which is the UC Invest amounts, plus electronic transfers directly to our bank account, $79,000. And the loose plate giving, which is what goes into the Boffin Bowl each week, $6,000. So that would give us a total income of $103,000. The property next door, for rent, will be $38,000, and utilities $9,200, and that gives us a total of $47,200 from the 24 Chapel Street property. Do I have any questions on that set of figures, please? No? We'll move on to the next slide then, thank you. The hire of facilities, we've increased that a bit this year because our experience, we've had two or three new hires during the year, and also the Woody Bora have been using the premises more often. So we anticipate a $23,000 income from the hire of all of the facilities here, which includes the square dancing and the Keep Fit groups and the art groups. The rent of the manse, $17,400. I think we've based that on 6 months, Chris, haven't we? 5 months. No, this is for next year. 5 months. 5 months. I'm glad Chris is here. The major fundraising, net of cost. We've been a little bit conservative with this because somebody said to me, it was Chris actually, said to me, we're going to have a market next year, Carol, when we had all those plants sitting out there, and I just said, so we don't know. But there will be fundraising, obviously. Interest received, we've increased that a bit because of the interest rates, and through this year, we've been able to transfer $40,000 from the Westpac bank account into the investment account. Donations general, that's a stab in the dark because we really don't know whether or not we'll be getting bequests or regular donations or what. So that really is just a guess. And a budget is only your best guess. The donations from the Netball Club, we do know now that annually they give us a donation towards the cost of the use of the premises and the courts. And the sundry income, once again, I don't know what to do with it, it goes into sundry. So the total cost of that particular slide is $64,900. And the community centre programs, hospitality and catering, that is the amount that we donate on a Sunday morning for our tea and coffee. And if we do any catering for a wedding or a funeral or something like that, quite often we'll get reimbursed or paid for our services there. The Japanese playgroup, they use our premises Mondays, most Mondays of the year. They continue mostly through school holidays, and their numbers have grown this year. It's going very, very well. Tai Chi, that Jill Kerr ably runs that for us. And every so often she brings in this great bag of money that I've got to count and bank. Thank you, Jill. The Art and Craft Circle, that's our Friday morning group get-together, and that's a really great day. If you're not doing anything on a Friday morning and you want a little bit of company or just a cup of tea or coffee, and you don't necessarily have to do art or craft, you're just very welcome to come along and join us and have a good old natter. And we do supply morning tea. The library, that is usually from the sale of the jams or books or things like that. The Shed Group, that is the Wednesday meeting of the Shed Group. That is still a small core number of people. I think it's about 3 or 4 people, Peter? Yep. And the fellowship, of course, is our own fellowship group here. I think actually that should be changed from fellowship now. What do they call it now? I can't read it. Friendship group. I'll fix that. Right. Old habits. So that particular slide totals $6,200. And then if we move into the community centre expenses, I think I might have dialed up something here. Well, I'll have a look at that. No, I haven't. Our pastoral care, I think, is our next one, Colin, isn't it? Yes. Gifts and gratuities, that is in case pastoral care we send out cards or flowers or something for a special occasion. We know that Cynthia Story still does the card ministry for us, and she does a wonderful job of that. She makes sure that everybody is cared for in one way. The resourcing events, that may be for Blue Christmas or something like that. The worship and faith education, obviously there's copyrights and licences for the use of the songs and hymns that we have each week. The others, worship resources, flowers, incidentals and special events, are just nominal amounts in case we do require anything in those areas. So for pastoral care, the budget is $1,300. Audio visual for next year, $9,000. Once again, that is just a figure that if they need to replace equipment, microphones or things like that, that is an amount for that. So $9,000 for audio visual. If we come to administration, the Mission and Service and Presbytery Fund, though that figure is set on our income for this year, and as I don't have all of the figures yet for this year, that is just a calculation of mine that it will be round about the $19,000 mark. Once I do get all the accounts to the end of December, I will then be able to rework those figures, but I don't expect that to change. If it does change substantially, we can bring that to a meeting of the congregation next year. The stipends and allowances, we've calculated this on 0.5 to June next year and full-time from July to December next year. So that amount will amount to $86,600. Visiting preachers, because we don't have a full-time minister, we occasionally have to request retired ministers or pastors or lay people to conduct a service for us. And they are paid for their service and any travelling expenses they may have. The office coordinator's salary, we've allowed a small increase there because there is usually an annual increase in all rates. Accounting and audit fees, that is the congregational bookkeeping unit who do our monthly accounts. It is also the cost of auditing the annual accounts as well. Computers and IT, we're not quite sure whether or not we will need that because the one of the computers in the office was replaced this year, and we put that amount in because we don't know and we need to make provision. Office expenses general is just the day-to-day bits and pieces, paper, paper, envelopes, things like that. The photocopier, we lease the photocopier, and this figure here includes the monthly lease fee for the photocopier and the cost of the monthly printing costs, the colour and black and white printing costs. Sundry expenses, once again, something, I don't know where to put it, it goes there. And advertising and promotions, will cover sometimes banners we buy, or if we get particular cards to hand out, things like that. So the administration is $45,800. Any questions on the administration side of it? Thank you. Now the properties, 26 Chapel Street property, building and equipment, the maintenance and repairs, $10,000, water rates and electricity and so on, $2,400 and $4,000. The insurance, once again, that's just an estimation, a 15% increase on what the insurance was for this building this year. Cleaning subcontractors and cleaning materials is the monthly charge from the cleaners and any materials we might need to buy. So that for this property, $41,000. Any questions on the Chapel Street property? Thank you. The Highland Manse property, 13 Highland Avenue. We've got a figure there of $9,000 because we do know that should we, hopefully, we are able to get a full-time minister, that we will have to expend some money on the manse because it must be at a certain level for occupation. The rates, council and water rec rates there, $6,000. The insurance, once again, I've allowed for an increase there. Telephone and internet, and the manse management fees is because the Boffo Real Estate managed that property. So the manse expenditure, $17,900. Any questions on the Highland Avenue property? Thank you. And the student accommodation houses next door, maintenance, $8,000. Rates, council, electricity, $8,500. You know, the properties next door, the valuation of those properties has increased incredibly since we built them, how many years ago? 6? Right. But the property next door the properties next door are currently valued at just over $1 million each. And the property on Highland Avenue is just under $900,000. So, and of course the insurance schedules will reflect that as well, as do the rates and everything else related to the property. So, as I said, the insurance has gone up, and gas and electricity, that is covered by the utilities charge that is invoiced to all of the students each month. So the 24 Chapel Street property, the total expenditure, $26,400. Any questions on that property? Steve? You have to speak up.
I understand correctly, the Synod effectively owns the properties were they ever to be sold. The money goes to them. Yeah. Do they help out with things like the insurance, since that's to their benefit?
No. The Synod of South Australia own all church properties. And if we maintain them, they own them. If we had to close this building and leave this building, the Synod office would then decide what use it would come for, whether they would sell it or not, but all monies would go to them unless we had a project or something happening that we could use those funds. That's what happened when we sold the manse in Rostrevor, because we had this property as an ongoing thing. The profits from that property covered the building of these properties here, but they still all belong to the South Australian Synod. Jenny.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment about the Synod owning. It might seem a bit unfair or unusual, but it's a good insurance against a congregation who may decide, we might vote at this meeting today, we're leaving the Uniting Church. If we owned this, we could do what we liked with it. We could become the followers of the rainbow whatever, and we would just keep the property.
That's right.
And let me tell you, there have been congregations, or at least one congregation I know of, who wanted to leave the Uniting Church in the last few years, and were most offended when they found out they couldn't have the building. So I'd just like to put that in front of,
Bruce, Bruce has got an orange card.
I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. And you're right. It's an insurance policy as well for them to say that these properties are going to remain the property of the Uniting Church. Okay, so the total income, anticipated or income is $2,221, $221, I'm starting to fade, $221,300. Total expenses, $251,740. Then we are proposing a deficit budget of $30,440. Have I got any questions relating to that, please? If that's the case, then I'll just add here that the Beyond Morialta mission projects, that is a balance sheet item that does not appear in our accounts. And over many years, we have pledged $3,000 to those particular mission projects, and also that the church will fund any shortfall between the monies raised and the $3,000. And also the annual sinking fund, there is a $4,000 transfer that is from one Uniting Invest account into the Uniting Invest sinking fund account. So they're on balance sheet entries. They will not appear on our actual accounts. So I would put a proposal to you that the draft budget for 2025 will result in a deficit of $30,440. No blue cards or anything? Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your work mightily. We thought it was important, even though it might extend the length of the meeting a little, to give you a brief report about the resourcing group. Remember at the last meeting we told you that there was a resourcing group operating that was going to make recommendations to council. They've done that, and I'd like to fill you in on how that's going. The group was appointed in October of 2023. The final report came in June of 2024. So we'll go through the points one by one. The first is to update you on the Kimber connection. This relationship that we're building with Kimber is progressing with enthusiasm from both congregations. I think that's fair to say. Two-way streaming of services is something that we're moving towards on our agenda. That'll be great. Brett Francis, who is the chairperson at Kimber, is keeping us connected in the interim, making sure that we know a bit about what's going on in the country, and they're finding out a bit about what we're doing here. We sent them photos of the market in great detail, and they just sent us a little video of them using our stream. Not a fabulous quality video, but I thought you'd like to see it. Can we have some volume, please, Ray? as I said, not a great quality video, but fantastic to see a small congregation in the country able to use our stream in that way. So that was the first of the points that came from the report. There were then 2 urgent recommendations of the report of the resourcing group to Council. The first was that we should institute an interim restructure of the congregation's operations, and we should do that using 2 different kinds of groups, one being the remaining teams that were still operating from the previous organisation, and secondly, task groups. We are in the process of making sure that everything is covered in this interim restructure. There's an organisational chart which looks like that. You can hardly be expected to see anything useful in that, but there are paper copies on the table as you go out if you'd like a paper copy, and we'd be very pleased to explain anything that you'd like to know about. So see on the left-hand side, that's the existing teams, not all of which have leaders at the moment. We're seeking. In the middle, existing task groups that are doing short or longer term jobs that are important for the congregation. And on the far side, these are other groups within the congregation who are reporting to council in a range of different ways, because we need to have it all being reported through council. So we're having liaison people. Some of you have been tapped on the shoulder and asked if you would be a liaison person from some of those groups to council, and pretty much everybody who's been asked has said yes, and we appreciate that very much. The office and the church records reports directly to council, and we hope that in that way we're covering the range of activities in the church, and that they are all coming through council for our consideration, our ideas, our support we can offer to the groups. Happy to answer questions either now or over lunch or at any time if you would like more detail there. You can talk to any member of council about this. Everybody's on top of this. And there's a paper copy of the chart if you'd like to pursue that. Are there any questions now? I don't think we haven't quite finished. On to the next slide, please, Colin. Right, so that was the first of the urgent recommendations, was that interim restructure. The second of them was that we set up a special purpose task group to consider reallocation of our financial resources, including the operation and expectations of the office. And that task group is currently operating. So we get interim reports, how they're going at council, and when that work is completed, we'll be able to report to the congregation what's been the outcome of that. Thirdly, as well as those 2 urgent recommendations, there are 8 other special recommendations which were sent to council for our regular, serious consideration as our situation develops. This is a standing item on council agendas, and the Business Committee is charged with identifying which of those 8 we are now up to looking at in council. You can imagine in the small council that Bruce detailed to you earlier that there's a lot of work going on and a lot of people who are already working in lots of areas. So moving into this new development stuff is a little bit slower than we perhaps would like. The first of these 8 that we have taken on board is to create mechanisms to ensure cover if any of the vital people in the congregation, the vital activities, should be unable to continue. We tend to say, what would we do if they fell under a bus? Yeah? So these groups that we are making sure that we have cover for include property, student accommodation, and AV. Is that all? Everybody? Council members? I didn't write it down. Is that all the three? We're looking at finance separately, Carol, because we know that we are going to have to, looking for a replacement of our treasurer position is, can we go back to the chart, Colin, please, for a second? Okay. A finance team is seen as a big part of the restructure, and we need to find a leader for that team that isn't the treasurer, so the treasurer can be busy being the treasurer, and there's a team leader for that team. This is part of Council's ongoing search. So it wasn't one of these extra 3 covers. Okay? Thank you. Back. Okay. I think that's the end of that set of... No. Aha. For your serious consideration, everybody, can you consider joining a roster list to relieve some of the people that are on the roster lists who are very busy doing lots of things? If you can, there is a sheet on a notice board in the hall where you could add your name. Or could you learn a new skill or revive an old one to contribute to this development that's going on here? If you'd like to talk about that, talk to me or John Seacombe at any time. Thank you. Any questions about any of that? Great. Okay. Now we are going to have a report from the Fundraising and Community Building team. Thank you very much, Helena.
You could see on the screen the summary of the fundraising for the year, and I should just point out that when we have a concert, half of the ticket money is kept here and half goes to the group that's performing. So the numbers are actually not quite representative of the total income for that. So we always split the proceeds with the performers. In addition to the fundraising, we should also acknowledge Judith organising again the Guess Who's Coming to Lunch, which is a purely social but enjoyable occasion. And also thank Leslie for organising community lunches as part of our congregational meeting days. As you're probably tired of hearing, our main fundraiser this year was the market, and we're very pleased that although we reduced the amount of work, we've still managed to raise over $9,000 to date. So it was a very well supplied event. Thank you to everybody that contributed. I'd also like to acknowledge all the years that Bruce has run the market, and his organisation and general input has made it very easy this year for me to just take it on and keep it running. So thank you, Bruce. I thought you might be interested to know what happens with all the leftovers from the market. So just briefly, this week, Chris and I took most of the leftover plants down to Goody's Op Shop, rather than composting them or just letting them die in the courtyard. And they've been very well received, and at least half of them had already been sold by yesterday. I believe any clothing that's left in Betty's boutique will be divided between Goodies and the RSPCA op shops. Leftover books are in the process of being packed up. Some, I believe, have gone or are going to the men's prison, and the remainder will go to Savers, so they won't be put in the recycling either. Finally, some of the items from the craft stall will go to goodies if they're seasonal, but many of them will be put away in the cupboard and brought out for trading tables at concerts and the like next year. Finally, I'll just thank you all for supporting our events this year and encouraging you to continue to support any concerts and whatever next year, and bring your families, friends, and anybody else that you can find to come in. We, as Carol indicated, don't know quite what will happen with the market next year. We'll think about that nearer the time, I think. It's a great social event and fundraiser, but it's also a lot of work. So if you have any questions or comments, talk to us now or later. And if you have any new ideas of different fundraisers for next year, we're always keen to hear. So I think that's about it from Colin, Carol, Judith and myself, I believe, as the fundraising community building team. Thank you.
Okay. A number of us are quite impressed with how our ACWAC colleagues and friends are working on the project that is so dear to their hearts. You'll have seen in the recent service that Doug and Bev put together just how much knitting and provision of support materials is made by the ACWAC people. Council is interested to know whether the congregation would be interested in the following proposal: that Morialta conducts a retiring offering after worship on a 2025 date to be determined to support the work of the ACWAC group, which shares our premises. Colin, could you just go on to the next slide and show... So this is a bit of a summary of just how much work they did in the last year. 107,641 knitted, handmade and bought garments, supporting enormous numbers of war-affected children in Syria. Okay, back to the proposal, please. Could I see your response? Chris, a question.
It's actually a comment, Margaret, just to let people in support of this motion that the people of ACWAC, the small group that actually run and organise it, finance it entirely themselves, which includes getting a container and shipping it to the Middle East at their personal expense. So I think anything we can do to support them would be great.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, how do you feel? Okay, I think that's consensus. Thank you very much. Good. Now, our next agenda item is wider church engagement. That would be presbytery and synod and other things that we do. Council would like to recommend to you that you take advantage of the fabulous reporting that has been done in the current issue of New Times. They have an extensive report on what's happened at Synod in language that we can understand, focusing on what points are relevant to people in congregations. There is also a summary from Wimmera Presbytery, our presbytery, published in that document. And so we can't, rather than stand up and repeat it all, we thought we'll suggest that people might like to read that. There are paper copies of New Times in the foyer for you to collect. You can read it online, direct link from our website. And if you've got any questions at all and want any kind of more information, do talk to Bev, because Bev is our presbytery rep to Wimmera, and she's Wimmera's rep on Synod. So we've got a direct line to the action centre of what goes on in South Australia. Anything anybody wants to raise about Synod or this proposal? Okay, fabulous. I hope you'll enjoy having a look at that. Right, now we come to any other business. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to raise? There is a yellow card from Dawn and another one from Judith. Keep going, Dawn.
This seems to be a fairly minor thing compared to all that we've been talking about. But when it was commented about a gardener being available for the buildings next door, considering the age of everybody, I just wondered whether that gardener would be able to include this property gardens in the maintenance as required, and taking the effort off everybody who's just not able to do the gardening anymore, whether that could just be a simple solution for that.
We'll ask Chris from the property team to respond to that one.
Good idea, Sam. Good idea. Sorry, Dawn. Good idea. Good idea of mine you thought of. Yeah, at the last property team meeting, we did just that.
Excellent. Now, Judith had a yellow card as well.
I simply wanted to record perhaps our thanks as a congregation to Colin and Helena, who put out our vision every month. I think it's an excellent publication.
Thank you, Judith. They form one of our task groups on our organisational chart. They are very much valued. Thank you. Any other business? No. Thank you very much. In that case, I declare that the meeting can be closed. Let us remember that we have a lunch coming. I think a small closing prayer would be excellent. Jenny, can I ask you to come forward and do that? I didn't ask you ahead of time. I apologise. Sprung upon.
Right, we bring our prayer. God of community and love, we are grateful for this community. We are grateful for those whose lives touch us who are outside of the community, and we are grateful to eat together, and we're grateful for the food and those who have provided it. We give thanks. Amen.
See you over lunch. Thank you very much. Excellent. There is a tray in the foyer for dirty coffee cups. Request from Ruth. Thank you very much indeed.